Thank you, everyone, for being here today for a very important announcement at the Fields Institute. My name is Arvind Gupta. I'm a visiting professor here at the University of Toronto, and it's my pleasure to be the Master of Ceremonies for this event. Just to get us warmed up and so we can all be on the same page about what the Fields Institute is, I'm going to ask the chair of the board of directors of the Fields to be the first speaker. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Sheila Embleton is professor of linguistics at York University and has held many senior administrative jobs. One that most of us remember is she was provost of the university. She's also been president of the Shastri Canada-India Institute and has held other senior administrative jobs both within York and across the province. What many of you may not know is that Sheila's first degree was in mathematics. Well, first 2 degrees were in mathematics. And so it's possible for mathematicians to also become linguists and learn. There's a list of languages here she knows, and it just goes many, many, many lines. So she can maybe greet us in some like 26 languages or something. Let me please join me in welcoming Sheila Embleton to the stage.
Okay, thanks, Arvind. So the Fields Institute is one of the leading mathematical institutes in the world. We promote research, training, mathematics education, and applications of mathematics across all the mathematical sciences. We enhance mathematical activity in Canada by bringing together mathematicians from Canada and abroad, mathematicians within Canada, and by promoting contact and collaboration between mathematicians and the increasing numbers of users of mathematics in areas such as engineering, all the physical and biological sciences, medicine, health, finance, economics, insurance and actuarial sciences, telecommunications, information systems, and increasingly in the social sciences, humanities and digital humanities, and artistic endeavors. As we are fond of saying, mathematics is everywhere. In 2017, the Fields Institute celebrated its 25th anniversary. It has been supported since its beginning in 1992, initially at the University of Waterloo, and since 1995 here at the University of Toronto in this purpose-built building, supported by both the federal government via NSERC and the Ontario government. We have 9 principal sponsoring universities in Ontario and relationships with other universities across Canada, in the US, and mathematical institutes across the world. So as board chair, I'm proud to repeat that Fields is one of the leading mathematics institutes in the world. Its board of directors is made up of distinguished scientists, as well as distinguished academic, corporate, and institutional leaders. To ensure the highest standards in all that we do, there is a scientific advisory panel made up of distinguished mathematical scientists, all of whom volunteer their time to this wonderful institute. So it's a great pleasure to see here today Dr. Reza Moridi, himself a scientist with a great appreciation of math, but also many other aspects of higher education, including from his previous ministerial role at what was then called training colleges and universities. He's a strong supporter of higher education in general and research, science, and innovation in particular. So as a representative of the board, but maybe also of the directorate, we're very grateful that you have done us the honor of visiting us today. And thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you very much, Sheila. And now, I'd like to introduce our very special guest with us today, Minister and Dr. Reza Moridi. Let me tell you something about the minister. I met the minister first about 10 years ago. He'd just been elected, and I was new to talking to ministers. And so we went, and I met him at Queen's Park in his government office, and he started talking to me about physics and science and the Fields Medal. And I had this kind of yes minister view of ministers, and there was this individual who seemed to know all sorts of things about our community. You know, to get very high quality people into public service is something that we should all be thankful for. Dr. Moridi has a PhD in physics. He has many distinguished honors as a scientist. And in 2007, he ran and won a seat in the Ontario legislature. Since then, he's held a number of senior roles, including Minister of Training Colleges and Universities, and most recently, he's our Minister for Research, Innovation, and Science. He's an absolute pleasure to know, both as a government official, but also he's a wonderful human being. And so please join me in a rousing applause for the Minister of Research, Innovation, and Science, Reza Moridi.
Well, thank you very much, Arvind, for that gracious introduction. Thank you so much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's truly a great pleasure to be at the Fields Institute this morning and joining you all here to announce Ontario government's next step in preparing for the knowledge economy. As you know, our economy is moving towards knowledge economy, and that is the way, as a jurisdiction, we can compete around the world. We cannot anymore compete just by relying on traditional manufacturing. The way for us to compete in the world stage in the 21st century is establishing knowledge economy in our society, in our province, in our country, Canada. And that's where the science, and in particular mathematics, which is the mother of sciences, is very, very important. Our government, I'm pleased that, is investing $4 billion to support the launch of the Field Center for Quantitative Analysis and Modeling, or for short, Fields-CQAM. This is an exciting project, and one that could not be more relevant today. And today's world of big data, artificial intelligence, and accelerated change, which is happening in our society and the societies in the Western world in particular, mathematics is more important than ever before. So Ontario needs to hone its edge in mathematics to ensure we are competitive in the new economy in the world stage. How fortunate then that we are home to the Fields Institute. Fields is a world-renowned institute, and its Fields Medal is the highest award in mathematical research in the world, one that's often called the Nobel Prize in Mathematics. The Fields Institute is driving important mathematical applications that are having a real impact in our society and in our people's lives. The new Fields-CQAM initiative will bring academia and industry together to focus on key sectors. The 6 founding Fields-CQAM labs will support Ontario endeavors in finance, healthcare, the environment, chemistry, artificial intelligence, just to name a few. And they will create new training opportunities for students and postgraduates and professionals. With Ontario's support, Fields-CQAM will help attract, train, and retain the best minds to our province of Ontario, and they will keep our province competitive in the knowledge economy. And again, when we are talking about knowledge economy, we are talking about people. It's the people who make these things happen. So our aim as a government is to invest in people's education from daycare, 2.5 years old in our new budget, as you have noticed. 2.5 years old kids or children, babies, they will go to daycare, free, universal for everyone. And the JKSK, we made it free again for every individual, for every children in this province a few years ago. And of course, our elementary and the higher and the secondary schools are also publicly funded with your tax money, my tax money. And the universities, again, 2 years ago when I was the minister, actually, I had the pleasure and the honor of bringing free tuition for our students coming from low income and the middle income students, so that we invest in our people, and then our people are the ones who make all these things happen. They are the ones who will win Nobel Prize, the ones who will win Fields Medal, and so on and so forth, and make our economy more stronger and indeed more knowledge-based economy for the years to come. So I want to thank every one of you for the work, the great work you do every day, and wish you all the best, and indeed for the Fields Institute. It's a great pleasure and it's a great honor to have Fields Institute based in our province of Ontario, and indeed I'm sure this University of Toronto, is quite pleased that the Fields Institute is the home for the Fields Institute. So thank you very much, all the best.
Minister, we cannot thank you enough for how supportive the Ontario government has been for the Fields Institute and for this new funding. I see some of our colleagues have arrived, and let me just say that one very nice aspect of the Fields Institute is how it interweaves the energy of 9 universities across Southern Ontario. And we've been very fortunate to have scientists from across the province helping organize programs, helping recruit students, and now helping create this new center. We've also been fortunate that we can draw on the energy of our universities to recruit wonderful directors to this institute. For the last 2.5 years, almost 3 years now, our director has been Dr. Ian Hamilton from McMaster University. Now, Ian is a mathematics professor at McMaster, where I did my undergraduate degree, and Ian taught me second-year analysis. And we were both a lot younger then. What I remember about Ian is that he would sometimes come in his squash outfit. So he had played squash, and he would come into class, and then he would cover the board in all this mathematics. And he never broke a sweat. So I don't know if he put on his squash outfit to come and impress us with his physique, or he came, and he never broke a sweat on the squash courts either. But Ian was an absolutely amazing instructor. One of the reasons I decided to study mathematics was because of wonderful professors like Ian, and his ability to see clearly what needs to be done, and to rally people, get people excited about new ideas, I think has had a very direct impact on today's funding. So please join me in welcoming Ian up to say a little bit more about this new funding. Ian?
Thank you, Arvind. Conjures up a strange picture, doesn't it? I'm sure I didn't wear my shorts and t-shirt into the classroom. Absolutely wrong. I do want to add my personal thanks to Minister Moridi and to his colleagues at the Ministry of Research, Innovation and Science for this exciting announcement today, and of course for their support over the last few years that I've been involved at the Fields Institute and the many years before that the Fields Institute has grown up. Around on the walls you see the plaques of commemorating special lectures that were given here by world-renowned mathematicians over the past 25 years. But let me tell you a little bit more about the new project. So this Center for Quantitative Analysis and Modeling, what is that supposed to mean? So the world has lots of problems for us, challenges. They come from nature sometimes, where new invasive species come into our Great Lakes. We remember the zebra mussels and the lamprey eels, probably from an earlier era. What to do about that? How do you understand what's happening to you? How do you take effective steps? Suppose that 4 forest fires break out in a contiguous area of northern Ontario. What should your strategy be? How do you direct the resources most effectively to combat these threats? Suppose that disease has broken out in a distant part of the world, and you think, oh, it can't get here to Ontario, but it can on airplanes. What's your plan? So challenges also appear in industry. How do we organize our increasingly complex economy? Challenges come with data. Data is inherently, these days, increasingly complicated. How to gather it, well, we can gather it better and better all the time, but how to understand it? So the role of what mathematicians call modeling is to seek out a way to describe, to look at the phenomenon underneath the data, to look at what's happening there and make predictive methods for understanding how to move forward. So in the cases, and the Fields Institute is something that has been preoccupation of the Fields Institute since its beginning. Its mandate from the beginning was to promote research in the fundamental sciences and in all of the applications of the mathematical and statistical sciences. So that's very much what the new project is about. There are challenges out there. There's enormous expertise in our university system. Graduate students, postdocs, faculty members, and their contacts around the world. Our idea was to try to bring this together. So the parts of this project, the first part is distributive. We'll have what we call labs. These will be set up in the 9 largest Ontario universities that were referred to in the previous remarks. And their faculty members, graduate students, postdocs, will work with industry partners on challenges that come from their particular domain of industry, health sciences, fintech, the list mentioned by the minister, and others that will be added to the list. Problems from the outside world, from that are not already pre-digested, if you like, to be understood mathematically or scientifically, they need to be worked on, they need to be interpreted. For that, we need people who can understand both sides of this interchange. We need people with quantitative skills who are trained in mathematical techniques, also trained in listening, trained in understanding the things that come from problems that are posed to them. So this is a big step. That's the distributed part then will take place in the sponsoring universities, including this one, the host university of Toronto. Sometimes, many cases involving more than one of those universities working together in teams of people. The other aspect of this is something that Fields has been doing from the beginning, which is the idea of thematic programs, to bring people here. And for this particular project, we are planning interdisciplinary thematic programs that will bring groups of the lab's partners together, the students, and have a coherent activity over several months. The first of those is planned for January. January to April is coming up. So I think, in summary, as the minister said, this is about people. This is about providing opportunities, which are lateral opportunities. In our education system, we have a wonderful concentration of strength that produces the graduates that we need for tomorrow's economy. But this project aims in its own way to bring perspectives across various different disciplines and to expose people to the skills that they need to function in tomorrow's economy. I'd be happy to talk to anybody more about this later, but maybe my 3 minutes are up. Now I'd like to call upon my good friend and colleague, Reza Moridi, the Deputy Director of the Fields Institute, to say a few more words, pick up on things that I'll probably have missed. Dr. Moridi is a professor of mathematics at York University and has a very distinguished career in all sorts of applications of mathematics, partial differential equations, to applied problems in medicine and bioscience. He works on heart murmurs, he works on cell membranes. It's a very fascinating portfolio of research. He and I worked together over the last couple of year and a half, just trying to do things here at the Fields Institute. So please welcome Dr. Moridi.
Thank you, Ian. So I think today marks an important milestone with the creation of CQAM at Fields, as many things have been said by Sheila and by Ian about the Institute. So I would simply say that the Institute plays a very important role, which is connecting everybody together from pure mathematical fundamental research to applied research to industry. So CQAM is another example of that. So as the incoming director for CQAM, I am very grateful actually for the support of the province, especially Minister Moridi and his wonderful staff at MRS. So I would also like to thank the leadership of the Institute, including, of course, our director in Hankelton and Sheila, and also I see several board members. I think they play an important role in the general activity of the Institute, but particularly for the center, creation of the center. Lastly, the PSU, the principal sponsor university name has been mentioned, but I also would like to mention the leaders of the founding labs, and so without those scientists, we won't have the center. So they have been very supportive from the very beginning, and so I think the next step is how to work together to make a real impact. So before I finish, I should also thank the staff of the Institute. I think that they have spent a lot of time working with us, preparing these proposals. There are many revisions and also late evenings, so thank you all. Before I finish, I would like to actually say personal thanks to my friend and collaborator, Arvind Gupta. Now, he didn't say this, but he's actually a force behind this proposal and the center. So we are very lucky actually to have Arvind on our board and being a supporter of the center. So I thank you all for coming, and there will be refreshment, I think, but maybe I should hand it to Arvind first.
Thank you, Arsham. Well, let me say again, Minister, how much we appreciate this. Now, with funding like this, with great funding comes great responsibility. And it's now our job to make you proud of this announcement. In some ways, it's easier when you don't get money, because then you can just complain you don't have money. But when the province entrusts public funds to you, and funds at this level, there's a huge amount of responsibility on our community to show what we can do, to show that we are able to build links to the outside community, to listen, as Ian said, to the kinds of challenges they face, and the kinds of places we can add, techniques that we develop in the academy, to develop new ideas on how we can train our students so they can have more impact out in the world. And so, Minister, I want to promise you that 18 months from now, when you visit, there'll be all sorts of new things that have happened because of this funding. And that you'll be able to stand up on this stage and say, not only did we go beyond what you expected, but there's a big tranche of new money. I do want to particularly thank the field staff for helping put together today's event. This all came together. Some of you will probably notice that your invitations arrived Friday and Monday. This all came together very quickly, and I'm very impressed at how the entire Fields team pulled off this wonderful announcement. So can you please join me in a round of applause to the Fields staff?